Our story begins not with a king, but with a queen. A clever and determined queen named Dido. She fled her home in the Phoenician city of Tyre, a place in what is now Lebanon, escaping the murderous ambition of her own brother. Legend tells us she sailed across the vast Mediterranean Sea, a refugee seeking a new beginning for herself and her loyal followers. Her journey was one of desperation, but, also of incredible hope. She was searching for a place to build something new, something that would last. A safe harbor far from the intrigues and dangers of her former life. It was a voyage that, honestly, would change the course of history forever. Dido landed on the sun-drenched coast of North Africa, in what we now call modern Tunisia. She approached the local Berber king, asking for a small piece of land. The king, perhaps underestimating this formidable woman, made a deal. He told her she could have as much land as could be covered by a single ox hide. It seemed like a trick, a cruel joke meant to give her almost nothing. But Queen Dido was far too clever for that. She took the ox hide and had it cut into the thinnest possible strips, creating one long, continuous thread. This thread was long enough to encircle an entire hill overlooking the sea. On this hill, a new city was born. They called it Carthage, which in their Phoenician language meant simply new city. We know it today as Carthage. Its location was a stroke of genius. It had a perfect natural harbor, sheltered from the unpredictable sea but open for business. This strategic position gave it command over the narrow strait between Sicily and Africa, a vital choke point for ancient shipping. From this single, brilliantly chosen spot, Carthage was destined to grow from a refugee's haven into a mighty power that would one day challenge the greatest empire the world had ever known. The city grew quickly, a testament to the hard work and ambition of its Phoenician founders. These were people of the sea, master sailors and traders who had inherited centuries of maritime knowledge. They brought with them their skills in shipbuilding, their alphabet, which would become the basis for many modern scripts, and their keen eye for commerce. Carthage was not just a new city, it was a new hope, a beacon of Phoenician culture shining brightly on the African coast. It was a place where wealth was not just inherited but created, where a ship's sail was more powerful than a king's crown. Carthage did not become a superpower through conquering land, at least not at first. Its empire was built on water. The Mediterranean Sea was its highway, its marketplace, and its source of immense wealth. The Carthaginians were phenomenal sailors. Their ships, with their distinctive horsehead prows, were a common sight in every port from Spain to the Levant. They controlled the lucrative trade routes, carrying precious metals like silver and tin from the far-off lands of Iberia, and even, some say, from the misty shores of Britain. They traded for ivory and gold from Africa and sold their own manufactured goods, like fine textiles dyed with their famous Tyrian purple. To protect these vital trade routes, Carthage established a network of colonies and trading posts across the western Mediterranean. They controlled parts of Sicily, Sardinia, Corsica, and the Balearic Islands. These were not just military outposts, they were bustling centers of commerce, little Carthages dotted across the sea. This control meant that any ship wanting to trade in these waters often had to do so on Carthaginian terms. They acted as the gatekeepers of the sea, growing richer with every vessel that passed. Their power was not in land armies, but in the swift, silent dominance of their fleets, which could appear anywhere, anytime. The heart of this maritime power was its incredible navy. The Carthaginian fleet was the envy of the ancient world. They built enormous warships called quinqueremes, powered by hundreds of oarsmen, designed for one purpose: to ram and sink enemy vessels. Their secret weapon was the city's harbor itself, known as the Kothan. It was a man-made marvel of engineering, consisting of two connected ports. The outer port was for commercial ships, but the inner one was a circular, secret military base, hidden from public view. It had docks for over 200 warships, allowing Carthage to launch a massive fleet at a moment's notice. This mastery of the sea shaped the entire Carthaginian state. Its government was not a monarchy like the kingdoms of old, but a republic run by the wealthy. It was an oligarchy where power rested in the hands of the richest merchant families. They elected 2 leaders each year, known as suffetes, a word similar to judges. There was also a powerful senate and a mysterious inner council called the Court of 104, which held the ultimate power over generals and officials. It was a government designed by traders, for traders, focused on one thing above all else: profit and the protection of the commerce that generated it. What was it like to walk the streets of this great city? Life in Carthage was a story of stark contrasts. At the very top were the aristocratic families, the descendants of the first Phoenician settlers. They lived in lavish villas decorated with beautiful mosaics, their wealth displayed in fine jewelry and imported luxuries. Below them were the bustling middle classes, the ship captains, the merchants, the skilled artisans who crafted the goods that made Carthage famous. They were the engine of the city's economy, their lives dictated by the rhythm of the tides and the arrival of the next trading fleet. Their ambition and drive fueled the city's relentless expansion. Further down the social ladder were the ordinary workers and laborers who toiled in the shipyards, the dye works, and on the docks, loading and unloading the endless stream of cargo. And at the very bottom were the slaves. Like all ancient societies, Carthage was built on the backs of enslaved people, many of whom were prisoners of war or captured by pirates. Their lives were harsh and devoid of freedom, a dark foundation upon which the city's glittering prosperity was built. This rigid social structure, from the wealthiest senator to the most powerless slave, was what held the complex machinery of the Carthaginian state together. The lives of all these people were watched over by a pantheon of powerful gods. The Carthaginians brought their Phoenician religion with them across the sea. Their chief deities were Baal-Hammon, a powerful sky god often depicted as a bearded, enthroned figure, and his consort, Tanit, a celestial goddess of fertility and the moon. Tanit was particularly beloved. Her symbol, a triangle topped with a horizontal line and a circle, found everywhere in the ruins of the city. Temples were central to city life, places of grand ceremonies and solemn rituals where people sought divine favor for everything from a safe voyage to a successful harvest. But Carthaginian religion has a dark and controversial shadow that has fascinated and horrified historians for centuries. Their Roman enemies accused them of the terrible practice of child sacrifice, particularly in times of great crisis. Archaeologists have discovered special cemeteries, called tophits, containing the urns of thousands of cremated infants and young children. While some scholars argue these were simply special burial grounds for children who died of natural causes, many believe it is evidence of these grim rituals. It remains one of history's most chilling mysteries, a stark reminder of how different and sometimes terrifying the ancient world could be. As Carthage's power grew, it was, well, inevitable that it would collide with another rising star, Rome. The conflict between these two superpowers is known as the Punic Wars, Punic being the Roman word for Phoenician. The First War was a long and grueling struggle fought mostly at sea over control of the island of Sicily. Rome, a land power, had to build a navy from scratch just to compete. In the end, they won, and Carthage was forced to give up Sicily and pay a heavy price. This defeat was a bitter pill for Carthage, and it sowed the seeds of a deep and lasting hatred, especially in the heart of one family, the Barcas. This brings us to one of the most brilliant and audacious military commanders in all of history, Hannibal Barca. His father, Hamilcar Barca, was a general in the First War and made his young son swear a sacred oath upon an altar to forever be an enemy of Rome. Hannibal dedicated his life to fulfilling that promise. After taking command of Carthaginian forces in Spain, he decided to do the unthinkable. He would not wait for Rome to attack. He would take the war to them, marching his army directly into the heart of Italy. A truly staggering plan that, honestly, no Roman would ever have anticipated. In 218 BC, Hannibal set off on his legendary journey. He led a vast army of mercenaries, soldiers from Spain, Gaul, and North Africa, not across the sea, but over the land. He marched them across the mighty Pyrenees Mountains and then faced an even more formidable obstacle, the freezing, treacherous peaks of the Alps. His army was accompanied by his most famous secret weapon, war elephants. The image of these colossal beasts struggling through the snow and ice has, captivated our imagination for millennia. Many men and animals were lost, but Hannibal emerged on the other side, in Italy's Po Valley, taking the Romans completely by surprise. For the next 15 years, Hannibal rampaged through Italy, inflicting one crushing defeat after another upon the Romans. At battles like Trebia, Lake Trasimene, and most famously, Cannae, he used superior tactics and cunning strategy to annihilate massive Roman armies. At Cannae, he used a brilliant double envelopment maneuver to surround and slaughter a force almost twice the size of his own. He seemed invincible, a terrifying bogeyman who haunted the Roman psyche. Yet, despite his genius on the battlefield, he could never quite deliver the final knockout blow, and capture the city of Rome itself. Hannibal's long campaign in Italy stretched Carthage's resources to their breaking point. While he was winning battles there, a brilliant Roman general named Scipio was taking the fight back to Carthaginian territory, conquering their lands in Spain. Scipio then did to Carthage what Hannibal had done to Rome. He invaded their homeland in North Africa. This forced Carthage to recall Hannibal from Italy to defend the city. In 202 BC, the two great generals finally met at the Battle of Zama. This time, Scipio, having studied Hannibal's tactics, managed to defeat the Carthaginian army, bringing the Second Punic War to a close. Carthage survived, but it was a shadow of its former self. It lost its empire, its navy was dismantled, and it had to pay crippling reparations to Rome. For 50 years, it existed as a quiet, diminished city, but some in Rome could never forgive or forget. One senator, Cato the Elder, was so obsessed with the threat of a resurgent Carthage that he ended every speech he gave, no matter the topic, with the same chilling words, "Carthago delenda est." Carthage must be destroyed. This relentless call for annihilation eventually won out, and Rome launched a third and final Punic War on a flimsy pretext. This last war was not a conflict, it was an execution. After a brutal 3-year siege, the Romans stormed the city in 146 BC. What followed was an act of total destruction. The city was systematically burned to the ground over 17 days. Its buildings were torn down and its people were either killed or sold into slavery. Roman legend claims they even sowed the earth with salt to ensure nothing would ever grow there again. The great rival was gone, erased from the map. The story of Queen Dido's new city had come to a violent and tragic end after more than 700 years. Yet even in its destruction, Carthage left an indelible mark on history. The Romans who destroyed it also learned from it. They adopted Carthaginian naval technology and were profoundly shaped by the long struggle against Hannibal, which forged their military into the unstoppable force that would conquer the known world. Carthage's legacy is a cautionary tale of how two mighty civilizations can clash, but it is also a testament to exploration, trade, and innovation. The ghostly echo of its bustling harbors and the ghost of Hannibal's genius still haunts the memory of the ancient world, a powerful reminder of the magnificent empire that dared to challenge Rome.